This is a situation that happened to me in September of 2014. I had graduated college the previous May, but I needed to finish up one core class on campus that had slipped through the cracks. I live in Chicago, and the university I had attended was on the far north side. In the months following graduation, I had moved across the city, so I had about an hour commute with a train transfer somewhere in the middle. So one day on my way to class, I was switching train lines downtown in the Loop. This was at 9 a.m., which made this normally busy train stop even busier. As I was waiting for my train to arrive, I felt a pair of eyes on me from down the platform. When I looked up, I saw a man wearing black jeans, a dark camo jacket, and a face mask, covering everything but a slit for his eyes. And those eyes were looking directly into mine. I tried to divert attention, moving further down the platform, but he kept getting closer, and that gaze was getting deeper. He was still approximately 1 to 2 train cars away from me in distance. So, when the northbound train pulled up, I jumped in, relieved. As I sat down and let out a deep breath, I couldn't help but shake that gaze. Somehow, the creep had made it down to my train car and was slowly and intentionally moving closer and closer to me. I looked around for help, and although everyone around me seemed uncomfortable, I could tell that I wasn't going to get help. I made eye contact with a basketball player from my school, thinking he could read my expression and help, but he quickly looked away. Eventually, creepy guy got to the seat across from me, where he sat down wide-legged, foot tapping with his arms broadly crossed, still staring at me. This lasted about one stop before I had an overwhelming feeling that unless I got up now, something bad was going to happen. And I'm not talking a mugging. If he wanted my backpack, he could have grabbed it at the station. No, this guy was out for something more savage than that. I needed to get off this train, but it was still in the underground part of the tracks, meaning if I got off and he followed, there would be no promise of anybody else on that platform, and zero chance of any bystanders. So I sat tight right up until the announcement that the doors were closing came on. Then I quickly grabbed my bag and darted out, thinking he would be too caught off guard to follow. Well, I was wrong, and he followed me right out of that track onto an empty platform. As I saw him in the reflection, I was lucky enough to squeeze into the closing doors of the following train car at the last second. As the doors closed and we were preparing to drive away, he made eye contact one final time, wrapping his fingers on the window. Obviously very shaken up by this whole situation, I caught up with the aforementioned basketball player once we got to the campus. I asked him if he saw the situation go down, and he commented that everybody on the train noticed it, and still I had no help. And the kicker? Once I made it to the police to file a report, the CPD officer told me that I probably just wasn't used to city lifestyle, even though I had lived in Chicago and used public transportation for a quarter of my life at that point. So creep on the train and helpless bystander / CPD, let's not meet. Yesterday I had a very terrifying experience with an associate of a used-to-be friend. My mother was in Atlantic City and my father and brother were at a hockey game. This left me home alone with my dog. Everything was pretty normal until about 6 p.m. or 6:30. At that point I had received the first message. This guy messaged me on Instagram, claiming I had insulted him. I tried to explain that I had no idea who he even was, and then I got the message. "I'm gonna find you." That kinda creeped me out, but I thought he was bluffing. I said, "Sure you are." I then got another message saying to keep a look outside my door for the next hour. So just to debunk the fact that he was actually coming, I asked him, "Fine, what's my address then?" He then gave me my address and described my house and backyard perfectly. I dropped my phone and ran to my neighbor's house. I stayed there until my dad and brother arrived home. I went inside and checked my phone, frantically trying to explain this to my father. Then the most horrifying part. At 7:03, I received a message which simply said, "The House of BioNinja Games," with an image of this guy outside my fucking house. We proceeded to call the police. I told them everything, and obviously there was nothing they could really do. Now this guy looked about 14 or 15, so it wasn't too threatening, although I'm only 13 myself. Until I realized he was wearing a backpack in the pic. I am glad I didn't stick around to find out what was in it. Let's not meet. I live in a house compound, and one day me and my family were visiting a friend's house. After a couple of hours, my mom and my friend's mom asked us to go fetch something from my house. So we go back to my home, which is a long way from his, and the walk seemed uncomfortably long and creepy and had an eerie atmosphere for some reason. After ages of walking, we reach my house, and we get the thing they need, which was inside the house. So I unlocked the door and got the object, and I noticed the bathroom door was lit, and the exhaust fan was on, which was usually turned off unless someone is using the toilet. But I didn't give that any attention and thought Dad was using the toilet since he wasn't in my friend's house when we left. So me and my buddy decided to wait outside the house for my dad to finish. And I occasionally went to the small window outside the bathroom and called for my dad, but I didn't get an answer. But I heard someone humming and singing, so I thought he was having a good time. After a good half an hour passed, I started feeling uneasy and told my friend we had to leave because our parents are probably pissed now. When we arrived at his house, we were shocked to see my dad sitting and talking with my friend's parents. We asked him, "Where were you?" and he said, "I didn't go anywhere. I just stayed here since we first came." This made me scared because my family was at his for 3 hours, and we just waited for my dad for 1. I go ask my sister the same question, and I get the same response. Someone was surely in that bathroom. After the visit is done, we go back home just to find the front door, which I locked, unlocked, and the bathroom door was wide open. My family acted normal, but I was completely freaking out and couldn't sleep that night. I was always a difficult little girl, or so my mother tells me. Between the ages of 3 and 5, I had a tendency to wander off a lot, particularly at the supermarket. My mother watched me carefully, but every now and then she would turn her head for a moment and I would disappear, much to her hysteria. Usually she would find me a minute later stuffing my face with chocolate from the shelf, the manager looking on with disapproval. One day she decided to let me wander off and see how long it would take me to feel worried when I realized she was not following. She kept her distance, peering through shelves at me as I tottered on, oblivious. Eventually, an old lady approached me and asked where my mother was. Mum waited for me to turn around uncertainly and realized that I was lost. But then, in a swift motion, the old woman scooped me up in her arms, and my mother's heart sank. She hurried out of her hiding place to approach the woman, calling out, "Excuse me." The woman turned, and with horror, my mom realized it was actually a man dressed as an old lady. He began running to the door, and my mom raced after him, howling like a banshee. This must have freaked him out a bit because he dropped me and fled the store. Needless to say, my mom never played games like that again, and I stopped wandering off. I spent the first 10 years of my life in the city of San Jose, California. When my mother could afford it, she would take me to a theme park in the neighboring town of Sunnyvale called Great America. We went there about, once or twice a year. The rides were fun, the food was good, and I wasn't paying, so I had a good time whenever we went. Except once, at around age 7. About an hour or 2 into the day, I got that feeling. You know the one. When you get a sneaking suspicion that someone you can't see is watching your every move. I mentioned it to my mom. She said I was imagining things. We went on about our day, and it was fun, as usual. But I couldn't shake that feeling. All day, it got steadily worse, until I was literally begging my mom to take me home. Eventually, she obliged, but couldn't figure out what had gotten into me. Now, a little backstory. My parents got divorced when I was only a baby. When I was about 11, they reconnected and decided to get back together, and so we moved to a shitty little town up north called Eureka. My dad's dad, I refuse to refer to him as my grandfather, lived in the same town and never talked to anyone, not even my dad. He was, in every sense of the word, a recluse. He passed away not long after we moved there, and my dad, being his next of kin, was tasked with going through his things. The first word that came to mind when we entered that house was paranoid. There was at least one rifle in every room of the house, sometimes 2 or 3. There was a Colt 45 under his pillow, another under the driver's seat of his car, and a snub-nosed 38 in a Ziploc bag in the back pot of the toilet. Cameras were mounted on every exterior wall, and boxes upon boxes of VHS tapes with the collected recordings from these cameras, some of which were nearly worn out from repeated viewing. Suddenly from the master bedroom, I hear my mom yell, "What the fuck?" My mom rarely swore in front of me, so I knew something was seriously wrong. I ran to the bedroom, and what I saw in my mom's hand shocked me to the core. It was a photo of me and my mother at the theme park. I was around 7, walking along with a corn dog in one hand, drink in the other, and I had a suspicious look on my face. I instantly remembered that day. My mother said she felt faint and left the room. As it turned out, there were around 30 pictures of us from that day, as well as some from other times and places. Some of them taken from within arm's reach. I never felt more creeped out in my life, and haven't since. I don't know why he was spying on us, and I'm not sure I want to know. In order to get upstairs, you have to exit the laundry room and go through the other part of the basement. So the light blew out in the other part, not the laundry room. As it was the only light on that side, it was pretty fucking dark. I finished the laundry I had to do while dreading to walk through the dark basement. I exit the laundry room, get halfway through the basement, and I hear a loud cackle. Imagine a sound people make when they imitate a witch.